I believe there's a quotable dog over in this section here. I think he speaks the truth, really.
Are we ready? Yeah? Yeah? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Come on, papi, c'est grand mestre, c'est pédraillé, c'est malheureux. Come on, papi, c'est grand mestre. Hey! Oh yeah, this is it. Yeah. All right, thank you very much.
That's Gus Ziesing down there on the end, on the horns and on the accordion. Thank you. He's got a little recording studio on second floor of Main Street Landing. He gets wonderful sunsets most every night. He does great work in there. If you want to make a tape for your mama, you might be the next Elvis Presley. You never know.
Low Tech Studio.
Second line? Yeah, new second line, I guess.
That's right. Low tech, because low tech is better than no tech.
That's right. That was the original slogan. All right. It's festival time.
New second line, y'all.
It's hot enough, right?
Get your white hankies out.
Everybody sing. new second line.
Y'all holding out okay? Anybody pass out yet? I'm on the verge. Mango Jam, we are in our, you ready for this? We are in our 25th year together. I believe that's a quarter of a century, y'all. Oh, Lord.
And we played for Bernie for at least 15 of those years,
I think that's right.
but never at an event like this. This is great.
But our first gig, Mayor Clavel hired us. There you go. We played Contoy's Auditorium. All right. It's true, I'm a flatlander. It's real flat down in Florida. Doesn't get any flatter than that, does it? And for the most part, I've been really glad to be up here. I moved up here in '74, and so over half my life, but as Gus says, I'm still a flatlander. But I can sing about Southern cooking. It's hard to find it, but we can sing about it. And this here is called Cornbread. What? You can't hear me? Hello? Is it George? George? Somebody just told me they can't hear me out
Whoa.
there. Anybody else say the same thing? Can you guys hear me? No. Everybody says no. Why didn't you tell me that about 4 songs ago? Thank you. Thank you, Wendy. Is that better? And who? The saxophone? Gus. Can't hear Gus either. Is that better?
You got to hear that.
Oh, his vocal. His
Check.
accordion's okay.
Vocal.
They can't hear his vocal.
I don't sing on this end anyway.
Thanks. Thanks, Wendy.
You got the camera?
Cornbread. Goose, goose. I think you need to turn the accordion down. We're just going to stay here till he gets it right. Well, I burned my bread. I'm sorry. Oh, I burned my bread.
Oh, no, darling.
Terrible.
Please, baby, please.
But it's all right, because the band knows what to do. Give me cornbread.
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 Whoa! Cornbread. Goose, goose. me for that pizza cornbread? I wanna know right now what you gonna give me for that pizza cornbread? Huh? Huh? I want you to tell me right now. Tell me right now. Tell me. Tell me. Tell me. Tell me. Oh. Mr. Michael Grazia Day on the bass back there, way up in Lincoln, Vermont. Cook it up, Mike. And on the drums, Michael Bradshaw. Very important person with 7 days. He cooks up a pretty good cornbread. And Dana on the fratois. Ferrisburg. Mimi Ryan on the alto sax. Dig it. You know what? I burn my bread.
Baby!
I burn my bread.
Oh, baby!
Yeah, man. But it's alright, 'cause the band knows what to do. Give her cornbread.
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 That's all. Cornbread. Goose, goose.
Thank you very much. We're Mango Jam. It was a great, great honor to play here today. And we got some people that you came to hear coming right up.
Keep a knock, but you can't come in. Keep a knock, but you can't come in. Keep a knock, but you can't come in. Come back tomorrow night and try it again. but you can't come in. Come back tomorrow night and try it again. One more time. Oh, yeah. Can I have a cent to pay the rent, baby? We gonna make it? I said, yeah. They have to work hard every day, baby. We gonna make it now. Baby, I know. Togetherness brings a peace of mind. You can stay down all of the time. You got yours, I got mine. We gonna make it. We gonna make it time. We may not have a clue what to do, baby. We gonna make it. I said again, yeah. They have to muddle through. Just me and you, baby. We gonna make it now. 'Cause baby, I know togetherness brings a peace of mind. We can't stay down all the time. You got yours, I got mine. We gonna make it. I know that we can. Yeah, yeah. make it. I said, yeah. They have to work hard every day, baby. We gonna make it, child. 'Cause honey, y'all know, to do this brings a peace of mind. You can't lay down all the time. You got God and mine. We gonna make it. I said, yeah, I know. I know we can make it, baby. Take your time.
Well, I don't know what you've been told, but all of these games have gotta go. You either come in or you're gonna be out. For what I know, it's time for me to
Hi, everybody. Hey, we got a party? We got the man? Let's hear it for Mango Jam. Well, I'm Jenny Nelson. I'm a dairy farmer from Rygate. And I'll tell you, this is the greatest honor I've ever had. I'm here at this historic event. It's a special time in the political career of someone I've worked for over 16 years. And someone you have all come to love as champion of working people, families, children, senior citizens, veterans, farmers, and the poor. And that's your United States Senator, Bernie Sanders. 17 years ago, Bernie hired me as his agriculture policy advisor. But before that, I came to know Bernie as someone who was a friend of farmers and who was not afraid to stand up to big corporations, agribusiness, and powerful corporate interests. I can tell you that he cares about my family, and he cares about yours. And he is tireless, as you well know, in his work for justice. And he loves our beautiful country, and he loves its hard-working people. Now, without further ado, we're ready to start the kickoff. And who better to start off the kickoff than Nicole Nelson? She was a 2012 finalist in the 3rd season of The Voice, and she is here to sing for you, God Bless America.
You ready? God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains, through the prairies, through the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home. What an honor. Thank you so much.
Donna Bailey. There are famous and wonderful people who get their names in the newspapers for the policy work they do, and that's important. But there are many other people who, on a day-to-day basis, do the real work in interacting with low-income people, in trying to improve their lives and the lives for their kids. For many years now, Donna Bailey has been one of the leaders of the Vermont Parent-Child Movement. She has done extraordinary work improving the lives of our low-income children and their parents. Please welcome Donna Bailey.
I've had the privilege of knowing Bernie Sanders for 30 years, and I've been a longtime advocate for children and families in Vermont, and I'm also a longtime supporter of Bernie Sanders because of his unwavering support of everyday people and his vision of a greater America, where a place where all people benefit from the wealth of this amazing country. Senator Bernie Sanders has time and again demonstrated his commitment to standing up for families, women, and children. With integrity and intelligence, he has been a leader for us all for decades. In the 1980s, I was proud to work with him and call him mayor. As the mayor of Burlington, Bernie created child care programs, a women's council, and a youth council, an entire infrastructure for caring for our citizens, the young, the old, the less fortunate. He built a city that all families can thrive in. And we stand in a park today that was a part of his vision for a family-friendly Burlington. Since 1990, I have been proud first to call him congressman, and since 2006, senator. Bernie has been a tireless advocate for children, pushing for funding and legislation that supports the basic needs of working families and their children. He understands, unlike many politicians, the cost of heating fuel in the home and gasoline in the car, the cost of childcare and college tuition, the money spent on nutritious foods to feed our families. He knows how everyday Americans struggle to get ahead. Bernie understands the importance of early childhood education to our society and to our economy, and to the children of Vermont and in this nation. He has helped to ensure that federal dollars pay for affordable, quality child care to support an infrastructure for young families. Bernie has donated every dime, all proceeds from his book, The Speech, to children and families here in Vermont. He has and will continue to fight for high-quality child care, affordable health care, housing, and a livable wage. Bernie has always been a powerful voice for women and all the underpaid and underappreciated workers who are caring for our future. Bernie is listening to our needs and to our dreams. He has supported the Equal Pay Act for women, the Violence Against Women's Act for women's safety and well-being. Bernie understands the plight of the poor and working families and how our children need us to reprioritize our budgets to ensure a better tomorrow. Bernie speaks up and fights for our future, a future where children have hope and they have an education and lifestyle that will allow them to care for the children of tomorrow. Bernie knows how to get us there, and I ask you to proudly join me in following Bernie Sanders to the White House.
Bill McKibben. As Vermonters, we are extremely proud of the work that fellow Vermonter, Bill McKibben, has done as one of the leading environmentalists in the world and one of the leaders in the global fight against climate change. Bill McKibben is not only an outstanding teacher and author, he is an extraordinary organizer. His efforts have helped bring millions of people in countries throughout this world together in the fight against climate change and the need to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel. Please welcome Bill McKibben of Ripton, Vermont.
Yo, Bernie, thank you, Bernie, for coming back to Vermont to launch your campaign on this day when we have this great spill of solar energy all over our city. We need to let this nation know that Bernie is loved in every corner of this great state, from Newport in the north to Bennington and Brattleboro in the south, from the lake behind us to the Connecticut on the west, from the immigrants putting down new roots in Burlington to the seventh generation dairy farmers in Derby Line. There's no leader who Vermonters have ever respected and voted for quite the way that they respect Bernie because they know that he always means what he says and he always stands for what he believes. What you see is what you get. And nowhere has that been truer than in his staunch defense of the environment. Now, my wife and I climbed the fire tower at Bear Mountain yesterday, and I could swear we could hear Bernie's name echoing off the state's great peaks, from Killington to Ascutney, from Camel's Hump to Mount Mansfield, from Mount Abraham to Lincoln Peak. Actually, that's not entirely true. What we heard was the echo of what Woody Guthrie called that great voice sounding. And it said, this land is made for you and me. Not for a handful of billionaires and oil company executives. For veterans and seniors and students, for nurses and teachers and firefighters and farmers, for all of us. And from up there on Bear Mountain, we could see, and political junkies pay attention, we could see the state of New Hampshire. Mount Washington, Mount Jefferson, Mount Adams, maybe someday Mount Sanders. Look, Bernie, this message of yours as it gets out is going to resonate in every corner of this country. The Koch brothers have all the money, but in the end, people, all of us, trump money. Earlier today, this state's greatest bi-weekly newspaper, the aptly named Addison Independent, became the first journal in the country to offer its endorsement for president. The paper said, correctly, stop trying to handicap the presidential race. Instead, quote, if you believe in what Bernie stands for, then be willing to support him in his race for the party's nomination. We do. All of us do too. On to Washington.
Mike O'Day. At a time when working people are under fierce attacks from their employers, we need trade union leaders who are prepared to stand up and fight back. Mike O'Day is one of those leaders. A number of months ago, his union went on strike to fight against a contract proposal that would have been devastating to the employees of Fairpoint Communications. As a result, Mike and the union held on and fought back and were able to come up with a reasonable contract that was overwhelmingly approved by the membership. Please welcome Mike O'Day.
Bernie! 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 Woo! In the last 13 years, I have seen a decided shift in the way Congress and the Supreme Court have approached working Americans. The minimum wage is stuck in the Reagan era, while executive compensation is skyrocketed. Workers' wages are depressed even though productivity is an all-time high. Working families struggle to pay rent and heat their homes while companies like GE and Verizon pay no taxes. As Bernie has been saying for the last 30 years, the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and we're footing the tab. The short of it is that corporate America owns the majority of our Congress. And if you're not for sale super PACs led by the Koch brothers, we'll find a replacement. The Supreme Court majority sides with the Kochs. Money is free speech, they say. There's one candidate who thinks that free speech is free speech, and that's Bernie Sanders. He takes no corporate contributions. Bernie's message is clear: a level playing field for the American worker. No trade deals that benefit other countries and not the U.S. first. NAFTA was a disaster for the American worker, and the Trans-Pacific partnership is much worse. Boo. Bernie is opposing the president on TPP. We need a leader that is willing to take on Wall Street and the mega corporations, someone willing to represent average workers, not CEOs. This past winter, we were on strike against Fairpoint for 4.5 long, cold months on Heinsberg Road. Our fight was textbook, Wall Street dictating a rate of return at the expense of workers. After the contract expired, Fairpoint imposed the elimination of all retirement benefits, health care, pensions, and job security language. There wasn't a week that passed without Bernie checking in on our well-being. He asked to host a Thanksgiving dinner for all the strikers and their families in Vermont. He wanted to make sure that everyone had a great holiday meal. There were 200 of us at Burlington High School that night. Bernie met with every family and let them know that he supported our decision to strike and would help us in any way he could. I can't thank him, Phil, David, and the rest of his staff enough. Bernie also scheduled a press conference on our workers' behalf to urge the company to resume talks and negotiate terms, not impose them. He spoke with our CEO on several occasions, urging dialogue. We could not have asked for a more caring and determined leader. Eventually, a contract was reached, and I have to think that without our great senator of Vermont, we would not have gotten it otherwise. Today, I am here to endorse Bernie Sanders for president. He has been a friend of working families and labor his entire life and a champion of our veterans. His message has always crossed party lines because it makes sense. Stop voting against your own best interest. Vote Sanders in 2016.
Brenda Torpy. One of the serious problems we face as a state and a nation is the lack of affordable housing. There are very few people in Vermont or in America who have done a better job in providing perpetually affordable housing to low-income people, to working families, and to the disabled than Brenda Torpy. Please give a big hand to Brenda.
I'm here today because I know firsthand Bernie's tremendous impact on communities and the people who live in them. I've also worked closely with him and can vouch for his high ethical standards and integrity, you know. These qualities and his convictions haven't wavered over the 30 years that I've known Bernie. I come from a working class family. My parents were smart, hardworking, and were generous community volunteers. They did everything they could to make sure that their kids had good values and better opportunities. Every day, I see similar families struggling in the same way, but yet with a much more uphill battle. That's why I'm here today to speak for Bernie. I've worked in affordable housing and community development for 35 years. And 30 years ago, when Bernie got elected, I decided to move down from Franklin County and get a job with him. And boy, he lived up to his campaign promises. We pursued innovations, including the first city-supported community land trust that has now been copied all over the country and in the world. It's Bernie's legacy that Burlington, this beautiful, desirable community, has hundreds and hundreds of permanently affordable homes available for citizens without big incomes. And also that Bernie is a beacon for big, iconic cities like San Francisco, London, Brussels. But we know there's more work to be done. It's immoral that nowhere in this country can a person working at minimum wage afford a one-bedroom apartment. It's immoral that in this country with so much wealth, we accept the fact that people live on their streets, in their cars, and in tents in the woods. I'm here because in my lifetime, I want to see the time when working people of this country are valued, respected, and fairly rewarded for their labor. It is that labor, after all, that creates the profit for our businesses and the services for the public that we all need and enjoy, and to them, in large part, that we owe our standard of living and quality of life. Bernie is a champion for these ordinary Americans. He lives and breathes this commitment, and he's known best outside our little state for his consistent and effective advocacy for the poor, the elderly, veterans, now the majority of Americans who are increasingly being left behind by the nation's economy and government. We know him here also for his deeds. It's an honor to stand on this waterfront, as other people have said, the people's waterfront, because of Bernie. Prior to Bernie's election, this was going to be high-rise, expensive condos. And now it has all this public access and park that you see, and permanently affordable homes for from the lowest income people to home ownership. All of Bernie's inclusive and equitable community development strategies follow this example of developing solutions with and by the citizens and not for them. And to this day, Burlington is known for its civic engagement and citizen participation, perhaps his biggest legacy of all. We know Bernie for believing and demonstrating, as he has here, that government can be a force for good, for ensuring the security and betterment of all citizens. An idea that's at the core of what America is all about, but it has seemed to be lost in recent years. It's time to resurrect this positive vision, and Bernie's the leader to do it. It's for all these reasons and my total faith in him that I will be wholeheartedly supporting and urge you to join me. Bernie for president.
We're getting closer. Okay, Bernie talks the talk and walks the walk. There's a couple other guys I know that do the same thing. Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield started one of the great and innovative businesses in America in Burlington, Vermont, in 1978, just a few blocks from here. Their special claim to fame was not just that they produced a fantastic ice cream and dozens of weird flavors, but that they were also great employers, supporters of Vermont agriculture, and champions of the environment. Ben and Jerry showed the world that one could be a successful and profitable company while at the same time maintaining progressive ideals. In recent years, Ben and Jerry have been increasingly concerned about the power of big money in politics and what it's doing to our democracy. Please welcome Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield.
What an honor for Ben and me to be here supporting Bernie Sanders, a man who for over 30 years has been fighting for fairness and against injustice. And I feel so lucky, and millions of Americans across the country are lucky, that we can now join Bernie in this fight. Here's Ben.
You know, front runner business as usual politics from either party is just more of the same. More money for the ultra wealthy and less for everybody else. More profits for oil companies and less clean air to breathe. More money for jails and defense contractors and pharmaceutical companies and less money for schools, lifting people out of poverty and creating a healthier society, both physically and spiritually. The system isn't broken, it's fixed, it's rigged. It's no accident that corporate profits are through the roof while wages are stagnant. It's no accident that 90% of the wealth created in the last 5 years has gone to the top 1%. The laws are written by politicians to please the corporations and the ultra-wealthy who bought those politicians with millions of dollars of so-called political campaign contributions, otherwise known as legalized bribery. And Bernie has led the fight to put an end to it. Unlike some Johnny-come-latelys to the issues, Bernie is the real thing. He's not about reading the polls and figuring out what he needs to say in order to get elected. He's about an unwavering commitment to basic justice, equality, and sound financial sense. I mean, the guy's been saying and doing the same stuff for the last 30 years. If he weren't so inspiring, he'd be boring. He's about leading with his heart and his soul and using his brain to do what's best for the little guy. The guy who is ignored by the political elite until it's time to ask for their vote. You know, some say that voting for Bernie is throwing your vote away. I say that voting for anyone else is flushing our country down the drain. And you know, sometimes the underdog wins. In the early days of Ben & Jerry's, when we were barely available outside Vermont, the Pillsbury Corporation, owners of Haagen-Dazs, were illegally trying to put us out of business. We couldn't afford to fight them in court, but we took our case to the people and appealed to their sense of fairness and won. And the country found out what the doughboy was afraid of. This is a guy with the vision and the guts and the smarts to return America to what made our country great in the first place. For those who have been sitting on the sidelines, finally, a candidate worth voting for. And you know what? If we all get off our butts and work for him, Bernie will defy the experts once again, and he'll win. You know, in the end, there's a spiritual dimension to all of this. As Tracy Chapman sang, hunger for a taste of justice, hunger only for a world of truth, 'cause all that you have is your soul. So let this be the start of the Bernie Rebellion. A rebellion against big money in politics that has corrupted our government. A rebellion against inequality and shoving marginalized people aside. A rebellion against democracy in name only. And a return to government of the people, by the people, for the people. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the long-shot candidate who defeated the politics of cronyism and won election for mayor of Burlington in 1981, and went on to become the longest-serving independent in U.S. congressional history. Vermont's adopted son, the next president of the United States, Senator Bernie Sanders!
This is an emotional day for me, not just for what I'm going to be announcing, but to see so many people here and to hear what's been said. Thank you very much. Let me thank all of you, not only for being here today, but for the support you have given me over the years as mayor of this beautiful city, as Vermont's only congressman, and now as our United States Senator. I also want to thank my longtime friends and fellow Vermonters, Bill McKibben, Brenda Torpy, Donna Bailey, Mike O'Day, and Ben and Jerry, for all that they do and for their very generous remarks. And thanks also to Jenny Nelson for moderating this event and for her incredible leadership in Vermont agriculture. I also want to thank my family, my wife Jane, my brother Larry, my children Levy, Heather, Karina, and Dave for their love and support, and my beautiful 7 grandchildren, Sonny, Cole, Riley, Grayson, Ella, Tess, and Dylan, who provide so much joy in my life. Today, here in our small state, a state that has led this nation in so many ways, I am proud to announce my candidacy for President of the United States of America. Today, with your support and the support of millions of people throughout our country, we begin a political revolution to transform our country economically, politically, socially, and environmentally. Today, we stand here and say loudly and clearly, enough is enough. This great nation and its government belong to all of the people and not to a handful of billionaires. Brothers and sisters, now is not the time for thinking small. Now is not the time for the same old establishment politics and stale inside the Beltway ideas. Now is the time for millions of working families to come together to revitalize American democracy, to end the collapse of our middle class, and to make certain that our children and grandchildren are able to enjoy a quality of life that brings them health, prosperity, security, and joy, and that once again makes the United States the leader in the world in the fight for economic and social justice, for environmental sanity, and for a world of peace. My fellow Americans, this country faces more serious problems today than at any time since the Great Depression, and if you include the planetary crisis of climate change, it may well be that the challenges we face now are more dire than at any time in the modern history of our country. And here is my promise to you for this campaign. Not only will I fight to protect the working families of this country, but we are going to build a movement of millions of Americans who are prepared to stand up and fight back. We are going to take this campaign directly to the people in town meetings, door-to-door conversations, on street corners, and in social media. This week, we're going to be in New Hampshire, we're going to be in Iowa, and we're going to be in Minnesota, and that is just the start of this national campaign. Let me be clear. This campaign is not about Bernie Sanders. It's not about Hillary Clinton. It is not about Jeb Bush or anyone else. This campaign is about the needs of the American people. And the ideas and proposals that effectively address those needs. As someone who has never run a negative political ad in my life, my campaign will not be driven by political gossip or reckless personal attacks. This is what the American people want and deserve. These are serious times. We need serious debates. Politics in a democratic society should not be treated as if it were a baseball game, a game show, or a soap opera. And I hope the media understands that as well. Let me take a minute to touch on some of the issues that I will be focusing on in the coming months, and then give you a brief outline of an agenda for America, an agenda which, in fact, will deal with these serious problems and lead us to a better future. Today we live in a nation which is the wealthiest nation in the history of the world, but that reality means very little for most of us, because almost all of that wealth is owned and controlled by a tiny handful of individuals. In America, we now have more income and wealth inequality than any other major country on earth, and the gap between the very rich and everyone else is growing wider and wider. The issue of wealth and income inequality is the great moral issue of our time. It is the great economic issue of our time. It is the great political issue of our time, and we will address it. Let me be very clear. And let the top 1% understand this. There is something profoundly wrong when the top 0.1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%, and when 99% of all new income goes to the top 1%. There is something profoundly wrong when in recent years we have seen a proliferation of millionaires and billionaires at the same time as millions of Americans are working longer hours for lower wages, and we have shamefully the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country. There is something profoundly wrong when one family owns more wealth in this country than the bottom 130 million Americans. This grotesque level of inequality is immoral, it is bad economics, it is unsustainable. This type of rigged economy is not what America is supposed to be about. This has got to change. And as your president, together, we are going to change it. But it is not just income and wealth inequality. It is a tragic reality that for the last 40 years, the great middle class of our country, once the envy of the entire world, has been disappearing. Despite exploding technology and increased worker productivity, median family income is almost $5,000 less today than it was in 1999. In our great state and all over this country, people are working not one job, but 2 jobs, 3 jobs, trying to cobble together an income and some health care. That is not acceptable. We can and must do better. The truth is that real unemployment is not 5.4%, which you read in the papers. It is close to 11%. Youth unemployment, 17%. African American youth unemployment off the charts. Today, shamefully, we have 45 million people living in poverty, many of whom are working at low-wage jobs. In America today, despite the gains of the Affordable Care Act, 35 million Americans still lack any health insurance. My friends, that is the reality of the middle class in America today. And that is a reality not just for us, but for our kids and our grandchildren that we are going to change. My fellow Americans, let me be as blunt as I can and tell you what you already know. As a result of the disastrous Supreme Court decision on Citizens United, the American political system has been totally corrupted, and the foundations of American democracy are now being undermined. What the Supreme Court said, essentially, was that it was not good enough for the billionaires to own much of the economy. They can now own the United States government as well, and that is precisely what they are trying to do. Now, what I learned in school, and I think what the men and women who put their lives on the line to defend our country have long known, that American democracy is not about billionaires being able to buy candidates and buy elections. It is not about the Koch brothers and Sheldon Adelson and other incredibly wealthy individuals spending billions of dollars to elect candidates who will make the rich richer and everyone else poorer. According to media reports, if you can believe it, the Koch brothers in this election cycle are prepared to spend more money than either the Democratic or Republican parties. That is not democracy, that is oligarchy. In Vermont, at our town meetings, we know what democracy is about, and that is one person, one vote. And that's the kind of political system we are going to fight for and are going to achieve. Now, when we talk about our responsibilities as human beings and as parents, there is nothing more important than leaving this country and the entire planet in a way that is habitable for our kids and our grandchildren. The debate is over. The scientific community has spoken in a virtually unanimous voice. Climate change is real, it is caused by human activity, and it is already causing devastating problems in our country and around the world. And let's be clear, if we do not get our act together and have the United States lead the world in combating climate change, there will be more drought, more famine, more rising sea level, more floods, more ocean acidification, more extreme weather disturbances. As human beings who look out over this environment, who appreciate the beauty that we have on this planet, we are not going to allow the fossil fuel industry to destroy this planet. Brothers and sisters, it is no secret that there is massive discontent with politics in America today. In the last midterm election, some 63% of Americans did not vote, including 80% of young people. Poll after poll tells us that our citizens no longer have confidence in our political institutions and given the power of big money in the political process in general. They understand that their pain is not being heard in Washington, and that people in Washington and elected officials are much more concerned about the lobbyists and the billionaires than the suffering of ordinary people. Now, combating this political alienation, this cynicism, and this legitimate anger will not be easy. That's for sure. But that is exactly what, together, we must do if we're going to turn this country around, and that is what this campaign is all about. And if we are going to bring people together, we need a simple, straightforward, progressive agenda which speaks to the needs of the American people and provides us with a vision of a very different America. And what is that agenda? Let me briefly tell you what I think. The agenda begins with jobs, jobs, and more jobs. If we are serious about reversing the decline of the middle class, we need a major federal jobs program which puts millions of people back to work at good-paying jobs. At a time when our roads, our bridges, our water systems, rail and airports are decaying, the most effective way to rapidly create meaningful jobs is to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. And that is why I've introduced legislation which would invest $1 trillion over 5 years to modernize our country's physical infrastructure, legislation that would create and maintain 13 million good-paying jobs. And as your president, I will lead the effort to make sure that legislation is passed. I will also continue to oppose our current trade policies. For decades, presidents from both parties have supported trade agreements which have cost us millions of decent-paying jobs as corporate America shuts down plants in Vermont and throughout this country and moves to low-wage countries. As president, my trade policies will break that cycle of agreements which enrich the few at the expense of the many. Let us also be honest and acknowledge that today, millions of American workers are now working for totally inadequate wages. The current federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour is a starvation wage and must be raised. The minimum wage in this country must become a living wage, which means raising it to $15 an hour over the next few years. Our goal, this is not a radical idea, but our goal must be that any worker in this country who works 40 hours a week is not living in poverty. Further, we must establish pay equity for women workers. It is unconscionable that women earn 78 cents on the dollar compared to men who perform the same work. We must also revise our overtime standards so that people making 25 or 30,000 an hour, 30,000 a year, who are working 50, 60 hours a week, get time and a half. And we need paid sick leave and guaranteed vacation time for every worker in this country. This campaign, starting today, is going to send a message to the billionaire class, and that is, you can't have it all. You can't get huge tax breaks while children in this country go hungry. You can't continue sending our jobs abroad while millions are looking for work. You can't hide your profits in the Cayman Islands and other tax havens while there are massive unmet needs on every corner of this nation. To the billionaire class, I say that your greed has got to end. You cannot take advantage of all of the benefits of America if you refuse to accept your responsibilities. And that is why we need a tax system which is fair and progressive, which tells the wealthiest individuals and the largest corporations that they are going to begin to start paying their fair share of taxes. When we talk about power, we talk about Wall Street. In my view, it is time to break up the largest financial institutions in this country. Wall Street cannot continue to be an island unto itself, gambling trillions in risky financial instruments while expecting the public to bail it out. If a bank is too big to fail, that bank is too big to exist. If we are serious about a progressive agenda that speaks to the needs of working families, that talks about climate change and the needs of our kids and the elderly, we must be focused on campaign finance reform and the need for a constitutional amendment to overturn this disastrous Citizens United decision. I have said it before and I'll say it again. I will not nominate any justice to the Supreme Court who has not made it clear that he or she will move to overturn that disastrous decision which is undermining American democracy. Longer term, we need to go further and establish public funding of elections. As I look to our future, it is clear to me that the United States of America must lead the world in reversing climate change. We can do that by transforming our energy system away from fossil fuels toward energy efficiency and such sustainable energies as wind, solar, geothermal, and biomass. Brothers and sisters, the United States of America today remains the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right. Despite the modest gains of the Affordable Care Act, 35 million Americans continue to have no health insurance, and even more are underinsured. Yet, despite that pathetic record, we end up spending almost twice as much per capita on health care as any other nation. In my strong opinion, the United States must join the rest of the industrialized world and guarantee health care to all as a right. And we must do it through a Medicare for all single-payer program. At a time when millions of Americans are struggling to keep their heads above water economically, at a time when senior poverty is increasing, at a time when millions of kids in this country don't get enough food to eat, my Republican colleagues, as part of their recently passed budget, are trying to make a terrible situation even worse. If you can believe it, and this is the truth, the Republican budget throws 27 million Americans off of health insurance, makes drastic cuts in Medicare, throws millions of low-income Americans, including pregnant women, off of nutrition programs, and makes it harder, for working-class families to afford college or put their kids in the Head Start program. And then, to add insult to injury, the Republican budget provides huge tax breaks for the very richest people in this country while they raise taxes on working families. Well, let me tell my Republican colleagues that I respectfully disagree with their approach. Instead of cutting Social Security, we are going to expand Social Security benefits. Instead of cutting Head Start and child care, we are going to move to a universal pre-K system for all the children of this country. As Franklin Delano Roosevelt reminded us, a nation's greatness is judged not by what it provides to the most well-off, but how it treats the people most in need, and that is the kind of country we must become. And when we talk about education, let me make it very clear. In a highly competitive global economy, we need the best educated workforce we can create. It is insane, it is counterproductive to the best interest of our country that hundreds of thousands of bright young people cannot afford to go to college, and that millions of others leave school with a mountain of debt that burdens them for decades. This is not what a great country is about. That must end, and that is why I, as president, will fight to make tuition in public colleges and universities free, as well as substantially lower interest rates on student loans. The young people of our country are the future. They've got to get the education they need. As everybody knows, we live in a difficult and dangerous world, and there are people out there who would do us harm. As president, I will defend this nation, but I will do it responsibly. As a member of Congress, I voted against the war in Iraq, and that was the right vote. I am vigorously opposed to an endless, perpetual war in the Middle East. Yes, we must be vigorous in combating terrorism and defeating ISIS, but we as a nation should not have to bear that burden alone. We must be part of an international coalition led by the Muslim nations that can not only defeat ISIS, but begin the process of creating conditions for lasting peace. As some of you know, I was born in a faraway land called Brooklyn, New York. My father came to this country from Poland without a penny in his pocket and having dropped out of school at a young age. My mother graduated high school in New York City. My father worked his entire life as a paint salesman, never made much money. My parents and my brother and I lived in a small rent-controlled apartment. My mother's dream was to move out of that small 3.5-room apartment and get a home of her own. She died young, and her dream was never fulfilled. As a kid, I learned in many, many ways every day in my house what lack of money means to a family, and that is a lesson that I have never forgotten and never will forget. I have seen, as many of you have, the promise of America in our own lives. My parents never, never, never would have dreamed that their son could become a United States Senator, let alone run for president. But for too many of our fellow Americans, the dream of progress and opportunity is being denied by the grind of an economy that funnels virtually all of the wealth and all of the income to the top. And to those who say we cannot restore the dream, I say just look where we are standing today. As some of you will remember, this beautiful place was once an unsightly rail yard that served no public purpose and was an eyesore. As mayor, I worked with the people of Burlington to help turn this waterfront into the beautiful, people-oriented public space it is today. We took that fight to the courts, to the legislature, and to the people, and we won. The lesson to be learned, and it is a profound political lesson, is that when people stand together, when people are prepared to fight back, there is nothing that cannot be accomplished. We can live in a country where every person has health care is a right, not a privilege. We can live in a country where every parent can have quality and affordable child care, and where all of our qualified young people can get a college education regardless of their income. We can live in a country where every senior can live in dignity and security and not be forced to choose between food and medicine. We can live in a country where every veteran who has put his or her life on the line to defend this nation gets the quality health care and benefits they have earned and deserve. We can live in a country where every person, no matter their race, their religion, their disability, or their sexual orientation, realizes the full promise of equality that is our birthright as Americans. Brothers and sisters, that is the nation we can build together. And I ask you and people throughout this country to join us in this campaign to build a future that works for all of us and not just the few people on top. Thank you again for coming out on this beautiful day. Thank you.
but you can't come in. Come back tomorrow night and try it again. Keep knocking, but you can't come in. Keep knocking, but you can't come in. Keep knocking, but you can't come in. Come back tomorrow night and try it again.
Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay around for another concert with Mango Jam.